Watch what I'm doing. Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday. We are playing on Oakfield Farm Farming Agency Edition on FS19. And it's time to harvest the sunflowers. Or at least their seeds. And for right this minute, while we're getting set up, I have the sugar beet harvester still doing its thing. I think I misjudged that turn. No, I didn't. What am I talking about? I want that one. Oops. Oh. Would appear that our draper is a little bit off straight. Could actually do with moving over, but it's the thing. How's our fuel? I could probably consider topping off the tank, and that should mean, oh yeah, that our sugar beet harvester is ready to unload. Start that one up. And so yeah, I've done a whole host of trips back to the barn with sugar beets. As you can see, we're on the last corner of this field. And I have the JCB and the truck out here. Unfortunately, I drove back to this point before I realised that the crop was dry enough to harvest. So I'm going to have to pull this out of the way anyway, because it's not going to turn around when it gets back to the other. Well, it comes back down, so we'll give it room to turn around. Stop that there. And somewhere. There we go. We have a harvester ready to run. Ooh. Now, one thing I am considering, I didn't check the sheep, is if worst comes to the worst, I could always add another one of those here, which would give me 2 million litres capacity on the farm. As I said before, it's a little bit cheaty, but if I decide to go more whole scale into sugar beets and or potatoes, it's probably going to be something I need to strongly consider. Papa J has a full grain tank already. I think what we'll do is we'll turn this out here. One of the tricks with harvesters is you unfold it, it raises the front, which gives it a little bit more clearance to pick the header up and take it out without knocking the trailer loose. Of course, that's not always a thing. And camber of the ground can affect that. Okay, where's the JCB? last week we ended the stream with our first trip back to the yard. So I should be able to estimate. We do 78,000 a time. Four trips. Yeah, we've done 4 trips back so far. Don't need that. I need back to the harvester. Okay, I'm going to take this round clockwise because that's the side the pipe's on. Now we're not going to be able to empty it until we've got one of our carts back to the yard. I did check our what is it, yield on the sugar beet field, and it's only about 100%, approximately, at best. This is definitely a good yield. Oh, excuse me. Good morning, Starbuck. Welcome to the stream. Of course, the good thing about sunflowers is they're not high yielding crop. They're good value, they're good fair yield. But it does mean we'll be able to get a fair distance around the field before we have to call in the truck to unload us. I don't know, I might bring the semi up immediately. And then once the JCB is filled up, we'll shut down sugar beet operations for the day. Yes, I'm not sure if you caught the beginning of it. It was basically, we started this out as a continuation of my Lawfold stream, because it's the Saturday morning stream that I do. And I did Lawfolds for about 1.5 years, although personally I'd been playing it for a lot longer. So we closed down Lawfolds, and the aim was to transfer money over to Oakfield as we needed it. But yeah, Lawfolds was worth 16 million, so I just decided after a couple of transfers, no, we're going to work this farm properly. We'll accept the starting infusion of cash, but after that, we have to do it all off our own backs, because otherwise, okay, just buy every field, buy some big equipment, and there's nothing to work towards. So I think episode 4 was about the last transfer I did, and that was just to up the number of fields that we had. But yeah, as you can see, we're not going with huge equipment even now. This I would consider a moderate-sized harvester. Wow, we're going to make the whole lap. It's going to be nice. I think there were some that were doing Lawfolds, back in 17 when I was playing that one, and even when I switched to FarmSim 19, there were already rumours a different guy was working on Lawfolds for 19, with the permission of the guy who designed the 17 map. The guy who designed the 17 map was, he was from that area. So he was fairly familiar with the farm itself. But he'd sort of dropped out of modding, which was why there were no big updates for Lawfolds on Farm Sim 17. And he gave permission for this other guy to do the 19 version. But I'd already decided I'm not going to wait for that. We've done a year and a half on it. I played getting on for about 700, almost 800 hours on Lawfolds in Farm Sim 17, and I've pretty much decided it's time for a change of scenery. We've done this farm, and the only thing left to do on Lawfolds was to buy all the fields and the end. And we were well on our way to that. The thing with Lawfolds is it's got a very favourable, what's the word for it? Very favourable economy. So even on hard mode, you make a ton of money. This playthrough's been a little bit harder because, and I'm not playing hard mode on this. I think I'm playing medium economy, but you don't make nearly as much money as I did on Lawfolds. But that's okay. So unfortunately, I can't abandon this here. Okay, let him go. We'll pull clear. Now obviously the nice thing about sugar beets here at the moment is they are, you can harvest them when they're wet, and pretty much from now onwards it's going to be damp in the morning, so we're not going to be able to harvest till lunchtime, and that's going to be more of a problem with our, not so much with our cereal grains, because they're generally ripening in the end of summer, but for things like sunflowers, and if we ever did it corn, that's a problem because we can only harvest those in the evening or in the afternoon. So the best bet here is going to be plant more soybeans as time goes on, because we can harvest those in the morning and then harvest the oilseed and cereals in the afternoon when they've dried out. And it's already 80% full again. Oops. Try not to tip the truck. Or we get a bigger harvester, which can harvest what we do have much quicker. The issue is going to be weather. Actually, let's check. Sheep's are good. Sheep's in the lower field are going to need clover side. That's easy. And I did top up their water, so didn't bother with theirs yet. Anyway, weather. Yeah, we've got all day today, all day tomorrow, and then it's going to be raining on Monday. And raining on Wednesday, and snowing on Friday. So we are going to want stuff done. So if I remember rightly, that said it was full. This truck is struggling. I think it's partly to do with the turn. I'm over stressing the hitch. You should probably leave it on 2-wheel steer for karting. We should, yeah. I mean, we will make a lot of money out of this. I think our crop selection is very good, obviously, with the sugar beets. We're going to have about 500,000 litres, which should be good for 200, 300,000. I think. Triticale I've not done before, so we'll see how that turns out. Reflection, maybe I should have left the truck here and just carted with the JCB, since it's so close to that sunflower field. And the capacity on the truck is such that we can empty the harvester 7 times? 8 times? Yeah, 8 times. But I'll just leave this in the yard for now. We'll worry about the sugar beets later. I'm going to have to clear the silo so that we can empty the sunflowers as they fill up. Okay, well, I'm going to leave that unloading and we'll jump back to the harvester. And I think this is probably our most critical job today. If there was the outside chance I could get 2 cuts from clover, I would probably cut the clover first, bale it up and wrap it, and then get on with the sunflowers, which would probably result in us not being able to do the sunflowers until tomorrow. But I'm thinking there is pretty much no chance of a 3rd clover cut. So long as I do it before it snows, it's not a big concern at this stage. And that's pretty much what's going to be deciding for us. Oh, that was the other thing I noticed. It's a fun little thing. If we look at the yields over here, all these orange dots where it's not that 75%, the rest of the field's 80%, or it's 90% and the rest of the field's 95%, or it's, what is this bit here? Not that, 115 and the rest of it's 125. This is where all of the weeds were. So this is approximately 5 to 10% drop in yield because of the weeds. So taking care of the weeds isn't as insignificant as I thought, but it's not a big area of the field, so it's sort of the last thing I want to do as opposed to the first thing I want to do. Plus there's the trade-off between creating tram lines across the field with the sprayer's tyres versus killing all the weeds. And I'm going to get a 5% yield increase where I affect the weeds, but I'm going to get a 100% decrease in where I drive. I'm thinking, because we can adequately prepare the fields now, what we'll be doing is when we plant the main crop, I will probably be, I mean, if I'm using the planter, then we're going to have solid fertilizer in the tanks, and the field is going to be 100% fertilized, or ideal levels of fertilization once it's done. But for the fields we're using the seeder on, all I'm going to do, I think, is run over the field with the solid fertilizer and just cover it that way. And that gives us ideal yield, or ideal fertilization, nitrogen levels on the field once we've done planting. Especially with the prep where we're either coating it in digestate or planting oilseed radish before we put the crop in the ground. But that does mean that as soon as we get to the first stage of growth where you can see the crop breaking the surface, we could run around with the herbicide and deal with that, just to 100% coverage of herbicide on the field. And that will eliminate weed growth for the entire year, so it'll give us the best yield we can get for the entire field. Still have a problem with things like the clover and the grass, because obviously there's not enough time to do it all between each harvest, or at least there's not under basic rules. Under what we're using here with precision farming, we only have to fertilize once. See, the problem in the past, with at least with grass, is you've got two growth stages, and you can apply a liquid or a solid to the field per growth stage. So that means I can either put down 2 layers of fertilizer, or I can put down a layer of fertilizer plus herbicide. And since using seasons is 3 layers of fertilizer, there's not enough to, you can't do it all. So either your weeds are completely out of control, in which case do the herbicide, but the benefit is still better to put down more fertilizer. So what we were doing was we were using a field harrow. I don't know if I've got it loaded still. Yeah, grassland harrow. We were using this to spot weed the grass fields that we had. But I did notice there's a problem with that, in that as soon as you harvested the grass field, those patches of weeds came back with flowers on, so you weren't able to weed them again. So it was only good for the next cut, and then after that the field, those weeds came back fully established immediately after you harvested the grass. So it's not the most ideal of solutions, but it helps a bit. But there seems to be, with precision farming, it's not so big a deal. If I spread manure and then drop off the manure spreader, I can go back and immediately spread more manure. The nitrogen is additive, and I don't have to wait for a growth stage. But still, it's a thing. Oh, good news on the FS22 front. is we are getting precision farming as a free DLC. I was kind of expecting it to be embedded in the game code, just because generally that's what they've done in the past. They've made a mod that does something and then it's just been incorporated into the game from the next release. But they're not doing that with precision farming. It's going to be a free DLC in the spring of 22. And it's going to contain everything we know about, with improvements as suggested by gamers. So I expect those to be sort of gameplay aspect improvements, and also improvements as suggested by professionals, universities and stuff like that. And I think we're going to get something to do with animals, maybe, since they've now got a livestock expert panel on the design team. But it is going to include other enhancements over and above what we've already got. So that's going to be exciting. But not available at release, which is sad, but not too big a deal, I would guess. Okay, so that's our third lab. I think we're probably okay for a cut through on this, purely because the capacity of the tank here is not in question. I think I was able to cut through not triticale, but when we had wheat and barley. So doing a cut through with a lower yield crop isn't going to result in us worrying about getting stranded in the middle of the field. So I think what we'll do, back up a little. That out. Oh, hold the brake until they